What's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, why is my dog finding every little thing to put in her mouth? Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sarah Sutton. I'm an indie author of 5 young adult romance books. They are available in ebook and paperback, and 4 of them are in audio. The 5th one's coming to audio very soon. So they're also all linked down below in case you guys want to go and check them out. It would really make my day. Welcome back to my channel. So this is a video that has been frequently requested ever since I announced that I have been doing my outlining my 7-book series. Sorry, my dog. Honey, can you just lay down? Mommy is working. Ever since I announced I was outlining my 7-book series, I have been getting a lot of questions as to how I outline, because I'm a pantser turned plotter, kind of. I don't plot like hardcore, but I do plot some. I'm getting ahead of myself. So if you guys are curious as to how I plot out my novels and kind of go from there, honey, what are you eating? You gonna stare at me? I'm gonna stare at you right back. Fudge, where's my train of thought? If you guys are curious as to how I outline my books, or how I'm starting to outline my books and how I'm outlining this 7-book series, keep on watching. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoy this kind of content from me. It really does help out my channel. Without further ado, let's hop into the video. So, plotting. Like I said, I was a pantser. Hardcore pantser. I loved pantsing things. I think I pantsed these 3 books, and I think Can't Catch My Breath was when I started to kind of work my way into the plotting world, and then I'm pretty sure I really did plot, sort of. Not as hardcore, I don't think. My evolution of plotting has kind of evolved as the books come, which is great, you know, fine, love that for me. But it has definitely evolved into something a lot more structured now. It's less willy-nilly winging it, and it's more structured. So if you guys are unfamiliar, you might not be, to be honest. This is a very popular book, but I use the Save the Cat Writes a Novel outline. It's got makeup on it, just ignore that, okay? This book has actually been a really big lifesaver for me in terms of outlining and kind of finding my footing in the outlining world. I find that the beats are very easy to understand, and it's phrased in a way that I can easily grasp. And it's not very long. The reason why it's so thick is that a lot of it is examples in the back. I will have this linked down below in case you guys want to check it out and you don't have a copy yet. For me, it was a lifesaver. So we're going to go over those beats that are in this novel, and then we're going to go over a little bit of an outlining thing that I do. Yeah, so we're just going to use this notebook. I got it in a book box, and I'm just going to use this instead of my actual notebook because I don't really want to write in it, and I can't show you guys what I've actually outlined so far. But yeah, so we're just going to use this. The thing with me and my outlining, I don't like to over outline. So over outline mean detail out every tiny little thing. I've learned that about myself. In my last book, I did do a chapter by chapter outline, and though it was really awesome for if I ever got stuck on a chapter, I could always refer back to the outline. Though that was nice, I found myself kind of getting a little bit burnt out of the story before I even got to it. And I didn't love that for me. You know, like, you don't ever want to feel burnt out of a story before you even get to writing it. But planning so in depth for the chapter outlines, I was really starting to feel very like confined and like, okay, I know what happens. I don't even want to write it. Because I used to be a very big discovery writer. So if I didn't really know what I was doing, I was just going to jump into the story and write from there. So I think that part of my brain that still was a discovery writer was feeling very kind of very confined and almost too confined by the chapter by chapter outline, because I still do like discovering the story as I write, but I have found out that I do need some amount of structure. For my book series that I am starting, I can't give you any details, so that sucks. But so I have the photo spread that I do. I think photo aesthetic spreads are very fun and they're very creative. They kind of get the creative juices in my brain flowing. The cool thing is it's not words. So I can pick out a photo that I like the theme and the tone of the photo, and I can put it in here. It's not a name that could get changed further down the road. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a photo. Photos can kind of work however they need to. Like, I don't know how to say it. It's not something that will ever contradict itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, further back, I have someone's name as Lila. And I wrote the name Lila, and now I don't love the name Lila. However, it is in my notebook. So if I ever change her name, that outline will contradict itself with her name, Lila, and being, you know what I mean? It's something that is an obvious oops. But with pictures, you can kind of make it be whatever you want and just kind of fit the tone of your story. So it's very laid back, very relaxed. It's a great way for me to dive into my outline. So I always start off with photo spreads. And actually throughout the rest of my outline, I have been doing photo spreads too. Photo spreads for each individual book. That's more of just like the kind of fun procrastination part of me that I love to do. I love picking out photos for the books and kind of giving an overall like aesthetic for the book itself. For my series, what I did next is I planned out the tropes and the titles. So I kind of made the books go in order, and then I associated the titles and the tropes to it. So I'm trying to be a little bit more trope heavy on these books than say this one's trope isn't really too hard-hitting and too defined. I still love the book, but it doesn't really have a solid trope like Out of My League is a fake relationship. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to be a little bit more solid in the tropes for this new series. So I wrote those down. And then there's one kind of major theme in the entire series. And I wanted to write out the evolution of that theme. Then the next thing that I did for my outlining is I wrote down elevator pitches. So like kind of one line of how to sell my book. You know, like what is one line that best describes the book that really just sums it up and people be like, ooh, I need to read that. You know what I mean? It was kind of hard because I hadn't really planned out the books too totally yet. I mean, I hadn't at all, but I had them in my brain. I wrote down good elevator pitches. After elevator pitches, I did something that I'm sure not a lot of people will do, because honestly, I don't know if I would ever do it again, is a working blurb. Blurbs suck. I hate blurbs, like the back cover blurb. Oh my gosh. It's like pulling teeth for me. I hate it. So I did a freaking working blurb just to kind of like get the general idea of how the story could be. Like I said, a lot of this could change, you know, so I'm writing it down now, but it definitely could change in the future. But it kind of just gives me a clearer path of where I'm going. Do you know what I mean? So I did working blurbs for every single book in the series. So 7 working blurbs. Love that for me. And then I dived into the book by book outline. And this is the nitty gritty. This is the cool stuff you're here for. How do I outline a book by book outline? Okay, so I know the angle isn't like too fantastic, but we're going to make this work, hopefully. So what I actually do to start off, so my whole spread is, let's just do this in terms of Out of My League, okay? So I would write Out of My League at the top, and then the next thing that I do on for my overview book outline spread is I go in and I write the characters' names. So we have Sophia, and then I kind of put the trope underneath it. So we have fake. I also do it a lot prettier in my actual notebook, but for like brevity's sake, we're just gonna do it like this, okay? So the next thing that I do is I go down a little bit and I do possible, because I always do those in parentheses, I don't know why, but then we do a subplots. So these are kind of like plots that could work, just to kind of get the ball rolling on where I'm at in the moment. So from there, I do Sophia, okay? And then I do friends, family, school, love, life. Ideally, there's going to be a plot point for all of these things in my opinion. So we have Edith, towards the middle-ish, Edith is mad for what the journalism thing that Sophia is doing. So this would be a good plot point. Family, her parents argue all the time and they announce their almost divorce. School, her journalism class is canceled, so that's a plot point. And then love life, her boyfriend dumps her and she fake dates the baseball team captain. So those are all kind of great plot points that will kind of give the story a bit more depth. And then from there, I even go in and do the same thing for Walsh. So we have friends. I will say there's not always going to be points for everything. Like there's one of my outlines, I don't have a school point, and that's totally okay. This is just like an idea of how to get the ball rolling, like I said, and just to kind of get the creativity going. So for Walsh, we have his friends on the baseball team. He's not really feeling close to them anymore. He kind of feels more like, just doesn't feel like he fits in with them so much. Family, his mother has an issue. If you read the book, you'll know what it is. Nothing major with school. Like I just said, I sometimes not all the points are met for me, and that's totally fine. I don't really know what school would have been for him, but. And then we have love life, is he is fake dating Sophie, kind of help her out with the whole embarrassment thing. Next thing that I do is I go in and I see if they have any siblings. Walsh, and I just go no siblings, and then no siblings, kind of like that, just like a general, idea. The next thing that I do for character development is positive. Also, my handwriting sucks because I'm trying to go fast. Traits. I have one positive, one negative. Positive could be she's ambitious. Okay, didn't leave myself enough room, that's fine. Negative could be she can be self-focused. He is, I would say, charismatic. Oh, I don't know how to spell that. I don't know how to spell that word. Charismatic. It's fine. Charismatic. We know what it is. My bad. I don't know how to spell it. Is that bad? It's fine. A negative could be fudge. What's a negative of Walsh Hunter? I don't know. But you get the general idea. A negative would go there. And then the last thing that I do, I usually have more room than this, but right now I'm just going to go up here. And I do hobbies. So Sophia loves journalism, and Walsh would have his hobby, which is baseball, that kind of fun stuff. So that's how like the overview for the book kind of looks, just like with the title, tropes, and then the possible subplots, possible hobbies, siblings, yes or no, possible positive, negative traits. This is all subject to change, but this just kind of gives me a good outlook going into the full outline. And then from there, we do the full outline, and we would just, put outline, and then we would go in to for me, it's the Save the Cat outline. So we start off with the opening image, and for me, that's like what the character is doing in that moment. Sorry if you hear like a scratching noise. My dog is scratching. Hey, drop it. This is where the character is going to open the story. So for Out of My League, we see Sophia in her homeroom class in the last day of the school year. So then we have theme stated. I will be completely honest. I hate this one. I hate the theme. I can never figure out a theme for the life of me. Sometimes I'll figure it out after the fact, but I will be honest, I sometimes leave this blank. I know it's kind of an important plot point, so I'm trying to figure out how to get a better handle on it. So if anybody has any tips for establishing a good theme and kind of figuring out the correct theme for your book, I would love to hear them, because I hate the theme stated one. And it kind of also points out that you can skip any of these if you want to. I more often than not skip theme. After that, we have setup. So that's just kind of like the story setting up, kind of giving a bit more backstory, a bit more like homeland stuff. Kind of showing the main character in their element before you get to the catalyst. And that is going to be something that turns the character's world upside down. For Sophia, it is Scott dumping her at the party, and then Walsh proposing the fake relationship. And then from there, you go into a debate where the character has to debate whether or not they want to make this change or want to stay safe in their little world that they have. So for Sophia, she debates, do I do this with Walsh, or do I just say, hey, Walsh was lying, we were lying, that kind of thing. So this is Sophia debating whether or not to do the fake relationship. This is your main character debating whether or not to take the plunge and dive into this world. And then you have break into 2 which is a scene where the main character decides, yes, we're gonna do it, and we are now breaking into the second act. And then that comes in the B story. So for the B story, it's kind of like the promise of the premise. So for my book, it's a fake relationship between Sophia and Walsh. And this is also when I introduce a bit more conflict between her parents. So it kind of just bulks up the story's plot a bit more and gives the story a bit more depth as you're moving into Act 2. That's how I see it. I want to say this is everything that how I see it, so take it with a grain of salt. If you think the B story means something else, that's totally okay. You definitely can think it means something else. Everybody has their own opinions. I just do it this way, and it works the best for me, and it's easiest for me to understand it this way. The next is the fun, and games. So this is kind of like a multitude of scenes where your main characters kind of work through the story. So this would be like Sophia and Walsh going to his friend's party, walking dogs together, kind of just getting closer and moving the story right along. Like kind of like the fun little scenes, you know, when you're fulfilling on the premise that you've set. And then comes the midpoint. This is kind of self-explanatory towards the mid of the novel. I would say the midpoint for Sophia and Walsh would be when Walsh comes over on the 4th of July and they watch fireworks together. I would say that that is definitely the midpoint. I actually opened up the book and that was this is like the middle of the book. And that was literally what the scene it is. So yeah, I think that's funny. So that's the midpoint. And then after that we have the beat called, my freaking pen, Bad Guys Close In. The way I see it, Save the Cat does detail it a bit more differently and a bit more in depth. But the way I see it is that we are kind of working towards like the big bad plot point, which is next. Save the Cat describes this as working towards a like if they had a false defeat or a false win. They detail it a little bit differently, but the way I see it is that we are still we're kind of getting into more of the touchy-feely part. So for Sophia, the bad guys close in would kind of be like when she goes to Walsh's house to have dinner with his parents. And she meets his mother and all of her things. And then when they go to the baseball field, Sophia starts to feel more like, I really do like Walsh. You know, that's where I think the whole bad guys close in is for my book and for this book in specifics. It could also include the big shocking twist that her parents tell her. You know, that could also be it. But because then when we move into All Is Lost, this is going to be a massive revelation that kind of turns the main character's world upside down. So this could also include the shocking twist of what Sophia's parents tell her, but I like to look at this more of the relationship side, so I include All Is Lost for out of my league. It would have been Sophia and Walsh kind of breaking apart. There's something that happens that pushes them apart. It kind of messes everything that Sophia's built up in her head, and it just, you know, the fake relationship dissolves. That is the All Is Lost part in my mind. From there, we have Dark Night, which is where the main character is going to be very sad. This is a sad time for her. It's a sad night. For Sophia, her Dark Night was a little bit short. It's kind of where the main character reverts back to their old ways. So for Sophia, she kind of goes back to writing the article that she had stopped or she had kind of had doubts about. So this is her going back to her old ways, trying to find some familiar ground because her world just dropped out from underneath her. She needed something to ground her. Then we go into break into 3. And this is like the decision making where she says, okay, she has to do something. She cannot not. So that's for breaking to 3. This is Sophia deciding, okay, let's go apologize to Walsh. Walsh and I aren't really that different. You know, let's do this. Let's apologize and see where it leads us, you know. Then we have the finale. this is where, you know, she's going to execute her plan and do the thing, you know, dig deep down within herself and say, yes, I can do this. I can go to Walsh. I can go to the baseball game, all this stuff. And that is when she's going to do it. And that is also, it's kind of a long beat in Save the Cat. I don't love how long of a beat it is. And this also is where the happily ever after comes in. So if Sophia and Walsh end up together, you know, they talk out their issues maybe. And then after that, we have final image. For me, this is always kind of like the epilogue. So what are they doing? Where are they at? And this is going to be kind of when Sophia gets the call about her journalism article, and then the final image of Sophia and Walsh together a few months down the road, happily ever after. That is what my Save the Cat outline looks like. And for all of these, I kind of go into just little paragraphs about them. I don't go too in depth. Like I said, I don't plan it out too much, but I plan it out enough that I can have a good visual of the story before I begin. This isn't the only outline that I do though. I also do a different outline, and I don't know where I found it from. I wish I did, but this is an outline that I have found really works for me, and it kind of just fills in a little bit of the pieces where Save the Cat was missing. And it also really does help me to kind of be a bit more grounded in the story, because when things are phrased just a bit differently, it's easier for me to kind of get a more well-rounded view of everything. So this next outline is something that I do as well. I do them both, and I find that they both are like extremely helpful. So moving on over to this side, we have outline number 2. So I don't know what this is called. I wish I knew where I had found it from, because I did not make this up myself, but I don't really remember where I found it. Let's move this because this has spoilers on it. So the first one is Homeland, and it's very similar to the opening image and setup of the cat outline. But it's just a little bit more concise, and it's easier for me to kind of dive into. We also have a spot where we're supposed to state the theme. Like I said, sometimes I just skip this one because I don't know. Theme is very hard for me. And then we dive into catalyst number 1. So this outline actually has 3 catalysts, which is actually what I loved the most. It's still the same. The same catalyst would be like Sophia's boyfriend breaking up with her and Walsh jumping in to save the day. So that's nothing changed. But then we have the reactive phase. So this is kind of Sophia's way of reacting to the whole thing. Like, yes, she's doing this, but she's not so sure she loves it. She's doing it for her own reasons, of course. But she's doing this, but she's still not like totally sure about it. She's just reacting to the catalyst. So she's going to these parties, this party with Walsh, she's walking dogs with Walsh, but she's still trying to find her footing in the whole fake relationship thing. And then we have catalyst number 2. And this would be probably Walsh coming to the 4th of July party and her realizing that she is starting to like him as a friend. She's starting to like him as a person and kind of think of him a little bit romantically. Afterwards, we have a proactive phase. This is her reacting proactively to the whole thing. Like she wants to go meet Walsh's parents. She wants to see him more. They like do stuff together a bit more. She wants to go out and help him with baseball. And she also wants to go to him when the bad stuff happens to her. When she wants to talk to somebody, she wants to go to Walsh. So this is her kind of like deciding, okay, yes, we're fake dating, but I'm really enjoying myself now. She's actively having a good time and having fun. Then we hop into catalyst number 3. This is going to be the huge big blowout between her and Walsh. We have talked about that in the Save the Cat outline, so I'm not going to go back into it too much. The one thing about this outline that I will say is lacking a bit, it jumps straight into climax. So we don't have any of that like Dark Knight break into 3 section that Save the Cat has. It jumps straight into climax. So that would be her going to apologize to Walsh and kind of hopefully bridge that gap, you know, saying this is my fault, I'm no worse than you, or I'm no better than you, and things like that. And then we have conclusion. And this is always like the happily ever after. I view this as the epilogue as well. Things like that. I feel like that just really kind of helps, and it helps fill in any gaps between the two outlines. They are both, like, this one's really basic. That's why I do love the Save the Cat one. But however, sometimes basic can be a good thing if you want to go into a lot of detail, but you want to have a basic idea of how the plot points are going to lay out. Sometimes long outlines can be a bit too much to comprehend, and so it's easier to have like just a basic outline. For me, I don't love massive outlines. I don't love detailed outlines. So the combination of both of these is very good for me. And then after that, I dive in. Oops, she's like scratching at the ground. Fun scene ideas. So this is just for me, like, what are some fun scene ideas that I could do? I could do a fireworks scene, you know, I could do a party scene, I could do a dinner party, I could do dog walking. I think those are fun scene ideas, and kind of writing them out now and them in my head, and so I don't forget them later. Does that make any sense? I hope so. It's fun to just kind of have an idea of like what some scenes could look like, and then after that, I write out a fun quote that could go in the book that is just kind of fun and inspiring. It could change, you know, no, there's nothing confirmed, but that is what I do. And then after I do all that, I haven't gotten to this point yet, but when I finish with all of my outlines like that, I'm going to jump in and kind of outline a generic timeline of what the timeline could look like. Like I said, it's not set in stone, so I'm not going to waste too much time on it. I'm not going to put too much effort into it or energy into it, because it could definitely change since I haven't started writing yet. But I want to do kind of like a basic outline of what the timeline could look like if it's over the course of 2 weeks or if it's over the course of a month. Just to kind of have a general idea of what it could look like and what it might look like. I feel like my outlining has kind of evolved a smidge from my last outlining video. I think I did do both of these outlines in my last video, but I feel like I have more of an understanding about how they work for me. Forgot to turn the microphone around. I think I have a better understanding about how they work well for me and how I can utilize them to the rate that I know how to, you know. And I think I like how I evolved a bit into writing out the siblings and the subplots. I love how I do the subplots now. I think it makes for a very well-rounded idea for the outline. I love that I include some positive and negative traits as well as some hobbies. Before, I didn't really do too much character development because I liked to kind of discovery write my characters, but for this series I wanted to make sure I did a few more like personal elements like this, because I did not want to run the risk of any of the characters sounding too similar. Yeah, I think I love how the outlining is for me now, and I'd love to hear down below how you guys outline, if you use a different method, or if you are a plotter or a pantser. If you are a pantser, let me know. I think it's fun to kind of branch out and experience new outlines too, so I'm always looking forward to that. I've heard there's an awesome outline called Romancing the Beat that I need to check out, especially since I write young adult romance, so maybe one day soon I'll dive into that, and if I do, I will definitely do an updated video if it sticks. But yeah, that is going to be my outlining video, my updated outlining routine. That is how I outlined all 6 books of my series so far. I have 1 left to do. I think it really does fit well for me. I feel like I can fully envision the story with this outline, and it's not too much. It's not like a chapter by chapter in-depth outline where I just get too tired of the story before I even get to start it. So it's enough to get me excited and enough to know where I'm going, but there's also still some wiggle room to discover some things while I'm journeying there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and tap that subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. I post videos at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, and I also host live streams, especially for Camp Nano. I hope you guys are having a great month so far, and I'll check in with you guys Friday with our camp vlog. Crazy, it's flying by. See you guys next time. Bye.